Jai Jagannath Radha Radha. Okay, we can continue with our discussion on the perception of God and in the various religions. So, you have any questions from the previous discussions?
No.
Not particular, okay. Now, we have established that in ancient religions, there was a very similar view of God as in the Hindu Vedic cultural system. That means that ancient cultures generally recognize one original God who was, the greatest entity, and usually it was not confined to individuality. It means that it was the principle of existence, of origin, the foundation of all existence and everything. And then there were a number of devas, or gods, that were, I would say, in charge in the material sense, but they were representing the various aspects of nature and existence. So, for example, there was a god of the sun, the god of the sea, the god of, I don't know, the death, all these realities, specific realities of the material world were represented, personified, controlled by specific gods, if we want to call them gods. But usually they were not exactly called gods. They were actually generally called Lord, or Great Ones, or Powerful Ones, something like that, because they were not considered in a general absolute sense. So there was a very clear distinction of duality. Each one of these personalities was very specific and had limitations. It was not, these gods were not omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and eternal, and whatever. They had a very long life, and they have powers that were much greater than normal human powers. But these that we could call devas, and in other ancient religions were called sometimes God or sometimes Lord or something like that, were related to another category of extremely powerful beings that were their enemies. Just like we have in Vedic tradition, we have the categories of Adityas and Daityas, or Devas and Asuras. So, for example, the ancient Greeks had the Olympians and the Titans. If you go and see, the Titans were very dangerous and ruthless personalities, were very powerful as well, but at some point were defeated by the Olympians. The Olympians are 12, just like the Adityas. However, the Titans were not considered demonic. They were just considered enemies. On the other hand, as we have seen, Zarathustra, also called Zoroaster, I don't know which one is more popular in India as a name. If people say Zoroaster or Zarathustra? No, we don't.
Zoroastrian only.
Huh?
Zoroastrian.
Zoroastrian, okay. So they call it Zoroaster then. So, okay, with the Zoroastrian revolution, this idea of the gods, the Suras and Asuras, was completely turned upside down. So, Zoroaster presented the great Asura as the only one god, while his enemies were the Devas that were presented as devils, which is like, okay. So the great god, the great Asura, Ahura Mazda, was assisted by lots of other Asuras who are described by Zoroaster tradition as angels, good people. And if you read my book Gods or Aliens, there is an entire chapter dedicated to Zoroastrianism that explains all these facts and positions of this Zoroaster revolution. The ancient Greeks were also influenced by the Zoroastrian concepts. So the Titans came to be considered good people. You know, although they were enemies of the gods, they were actually good people. Like, for example, I believe Prometheus, let me check, I think Prometheus, God, there, yes, was one of the Titans. Okay, one of the Titans, Prometheus, was very important because became famous and worshipped and venerated because, according to the Greek tradition, Prometheus has stolen the fire from the Olympians and given the fire to human beings who didn't have the fire until then. So Prometheus also taught many things to human beings because he liked human beings. He wanted to help them. So the human beings became very grateful. But the father of the Olympians, Zeus, the god of thunder, the god of lightning, which could be equated with Indra, punished Prometheus in a very horrible manner. He chained Prometheus to a rock, and every day an eagle would come and eat Prometheus' liver, and every night, Prometheus' liver would grow back to be eaten again the next day by the same eagle. So it's like, oh, bad, that's bad. So, this idea, this confusion between Devas and Asuras was spread, and absorbed by different people in different ways. So, in ancient times, people came to make less difference between the Devas and the Asuras, especially when the Asuras seem to be favorable to human beings, like the Yakshas and Nagas, and sometimes even the Rakshasas. If you worship the Rakshasas will be very generous. So that's why Krishna Bhagavad Gita says those who are controlled by rajas worship the rakshasas, because the rakshasas can have a lot of power, they can give a lot of benefits to their worshippers. Now, the big change came, as we mentioned last time, when Alexander the Great went to try to conquer India. He was on a roll because he had conquered everything else. He conquered especially the Persians, who were the greatest followers of Zoroaster. He didn't change their religion, though, because he was not interested in doing that. But he put them under his empire when he went to India, and he was not able to conquer India, but he brought back a number of books and teachers, translators, and so on, both Hindu and Buddhist. So this is how the ancient university and library of Alexandria started to exist, was created. So the meeting of the two cultures, the Indian culture and the Western culture, so to speak, created the phenomenon called Hellenism. And it became a big thing, not only in those times, but for many centuries. Still in the Middle Ages Europe, after the establishment of Christianity, people were writing books and starting the books by saying ex oriente lux, means the light comes from the east, and by east they meant India. So but this knowledge became rather outlawed and persecuted when Christianity came to power. Now, and then we have the biggest expansion of the Abrahamic religion in the days of the fall of the Roman Empire. Now, many scholars, even mainstream scholars, now recognize that there was probably a connection between the spreading of Christianity and the fall of the Roman Empire. So, how did it start? Now, 2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire was controlling Palestine, Judea, because in that period the empire had just started. It had passed from Republic of Rome to the Empire of Rome. And this big step was done basically by Julius Caesar. Did you hear about Julius Caesar?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Now, for example, the word Tsar, the Tsar in the Russia, the word is a contraction of Caesar, because
Okay.
the name of Caesar became so famous as a great ruler and emperor that it passed in several other languages. So Julius Caesar was going around and conquering a lot of territories for the empire. Especially, he went to war with the Gauls, the Celtic people that lived around the Alps. You know the Alps? The Alps are a big
There are some mountains, right?
mountain, yeah. That is not very different from Himalayas, but much smaller. It's
Mm-hmm.
smaller, but in a sense, it's similar, is comparable to the Himalaya. And Italy is not very different geographically from India because it is surrounded on three sides by the sea. And on the north, there is this big mountain range that is called the Alps that cover practically almost all the north limit of Italy. And then there is a mountain range that is going perpendicularly, vertically, if we want to say, from north to south, but especially in the middle of Italy, which is called the Apennines. And they are comparable to the Vindhya Mountains in India. So, in ancient times, Rome was founded in 700 BCE, around 700 BCE, and started as a small village. Then gradually, it absorbed a lot of nearby town, populations, villages and lands and everything. In the beginning, it looks like it was founded by the Etruscans. You heard about the Etruscans? Maybe not.
No.
No, the Etruscans. You heard about the peoples of the sea? No.
No.
Okay. Around 1500 BCE, the biggest civilizations in the Mediterranean were invaded and damaged by the mysterious peoples of the sea, which were basically pirates that were coming from the Caucasus. What the British like to call Aryans. Okay, because the British were also basically pirates. So they wanted to associate themselves with these, ancient pirates who conquered and destroyed and made a big mess, which were coming from the Caucasus because the Caucasus was going dry. There was some climate change, so they couldn't survive there. So they started. First, they started by cart, horses, wagons trained by horses and bullocks. Then when they came to the sea, they said, okay, we need some ships here. So they came from the sea to the Mediterranean. And they conquered and pillaged and made a big mess. So recently the history scholars have started to call it the Bronze Age collapse, because lots of ancient civilizations collapsed about that. They lost a lot of power because they were not expecting something like that. They were all more or less peaceful peoples. And they got all these pirates. And one of these groups of pirates settled in central Italy. They were called Etruscans. The Etruscan civilization is very interesting, and it developed not too much before the foundation of Rome. Traditionally, the historians say that the first 3 kings of Rome were from Etruscans. Tarquinio Prisco, Tarquinio Severo, Tarquinio Superbo. So these 3 Tarquinis were definitely Etruscan. So in the beginning, Rome was a village established by some Etruscan, chieftain. Then gradually it increased, expanded, and went into war against the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians in those times were based on Carthage. Carthage was the biggest city in the Mediterranean at that time. Alexandria had just started to grow. But Carthage was making a lot of colonies in the Mediterranean. So Rome went to war against Carthage and destroyed it completely. That was a big step because Rome became much more powerful and controlled the Mediterranean Sea. They controlled the sea. Then what happened? After conquering Carthage, they started to think about expanding a little more in the north. So Carthage had colonies in South Italy, so they became Roman. Then they wanted to go north, so on this side of the Alps and the other side of the Alps. And these populations were called Gauls or Celts. You heard about the Celts? Not really.
No.
No. So the Celts were the populations that took the place of the Etruscans when the Etruscans practically faded away. So Julius Caesar was the one who went to war with all the Gauls. And that became famous because of the book, the books he wrote, specifically De Bello Gallico, which means about the war against the Gauls. So basically Caesar conquered North Italy and France and Spain and started to think about Britain. Germany, he conquered Germany, and he started to think about Britain. So he was extremely powerful. Then he thought, okay, maybe because Britain was a bit difficult, because the British people were very stubborn. So he thought, okay, maybe we'll try in Egypt. So Julius Caesar went and conquered Egypt. And we have the famous story of Cleopatra. You heard about Cleopatra? Not really.
Like I've heard, but I don't know.
Yeah, Cleopatra was the last queen of Egypt.
Okay.
And she became a lover of Caesar because they made an alliance that also became a sort of marriage relationship. Caesar was already married, but whatever. And Caesar was very interested in Egypt, but because he became too favorable to Cleopatra, in Italy, in Rome, people started to get a little suspicious because Caesar was becoming too powerful. So basically, when Caesar went back to Rome and tried to, become emperor, they killed him. The famous assassination of Julius Caesar. Et tu, Brute, and all this stuff. His nephew became the emperor. So he worshipped Caesar after Caesar was dead. And then he became, Octavian became Augustus, took the name of Augustus, and became the emperor. So Rome became an empire. At that point, after Augustus, there was the Flavi emperors who conquered Palestine and the whole area. And in fact, the Flavian emperors got some ideas from the Jewish revolution of the Maccabees. The Maccabees revolted against the old Seleucid Empire because they wanted to establish their own nation, Jewish nation, their own, their own power. So they created the Jewish religion, and they had this idea of the Messiah that came directly from the Zoroastrian tradition. So basically, when Titus and Vespasian and Titus went to Palestine, to Israel, to conquer and keep the control over the region, they thought that this idea of the Messiah as the priest king that had divine powers given by God directly through the priest was a good idea, because that was the best way to control people. So basically, with the help of Joseph Flavius, who became was officially adopted by the Flavian emperor and took their name, their family name. That's why it's called Flavius. He started Christianity, in which the Roman emperor was supposed to be the Messiah, the divine king. So, but things became a bit more complicated because there was this group of people called Christians later on, but they were the followers of Jesus, who was a Desi Messiah. Was not a Videshi. We want the Desi Messiah. We want a Jew to be the Messiah. You get the point.
Mm-hmm.
So the Christians started to revolt, also, supported by the Maccabees and everything. So what happened, that the Roman Empire totally destroyed Jerusalem. Totally. In 71, of the current era, I believe, the temple was destroyed. The thousands of people were killed, and practically Jerusalem was almost abandoned. The Jews, many of the Jews, including those who had become, so to speak, Christians, they would be called Christians later on, not immediately. They ran especially to Alexandria of Egypt. That was a big, cultural center where there were many Jews already living there very comfortably and safely. Some escaped to India, some escaped, to East Europe, but basically, mostly in Alexandria. So these people absorbed the Hellenistic culture. So at some point, things went on with different clashes and misunderstandings and failures and whatever, until Constantine. You heard about Constantine? No.
No.
Constantine became the emperor of Rome in 313 of this era. So about 200 years after the Jesus times. And because at that point there were lots of Christians in the Roman Empire, Constantine got the idea, okay, we cannot stop them, so let's enroll them as agents of the government. So initially, the Christians that went to Rome, and in general in the Roman Empire, opposed the Roman government, opposed the emperors, because they didn't buy this thing that the Roman emperor was the Messiah, so they didn't recognize the Roman government. So they were particularly pesky for the Roman government. And they actually gave fire to the emperor's house, Domitian. Domitian was the last of the three Fabian emperors. So Domitian got so angry that today he is remembered as the greatest persecutor of the Christians, because he was pissed. He didn't like the fact that they burned his house down. So after Domitian, Constantine came to power, and he made Christianity a religion connected with the government. It wasn't a very brilliant idea, because the Christians became so entitled and arrogant that they actually kicked out Constantine from Rome. In fact, Constantine had to run away from Rome and move the government to the present-day Istanbul, that he called Nova Roma, means New Rome, and then after his name was called Constantinople, and after Constantinople it was called Byzantium, because there was a small town before Constantine went there. Especially it was called Byzantium after the separation of the East Roman Empire from the West Roman Empire. So in about 500 of this era, the Western Roman Empire disintegrated, and the only Roman Empire that remained was the Eastern Roman Empire. That was Constantinople, now Istanbul. So this changed things a lot, because the shift of power made the Roman Empire much weaker. Many barbarians had converted to Christianity, so they wanted to be the emperors and the kings and whatnot. So they were not cooperating much with Constantinople. To try to make Christians happy, Theodosius, who was the last actual Roman emperor, made Christianity the state religion, the only permissible, only allowed state religions. All the other religions, the ancient religion, the non-religious people, they became criminals. They were considered criminals, so they were rounded up in concentration camps and killed. Whoever didn't convert to Christianity was ready for the concentration camps, or could be killed by anyone in the street, as it happened to Hypatia. Hypatia was killed by the Christian mob in Alexandria, and she was the last director of the University of Alexandria. And she was a woman, which, Christians didn't like that. So she was killed in a very bad way, and the University of Alexandria was destroyed, was closed down. The Christian couldn't burn all the books because, it would take a lot of time. But still, nobody was in charge anymore because it was outlawed, it was illegal. It was closed down, banned, if you want to say. This left Christianity to a...
So these
Yeah.
these killings and these sort of activities, are they in line with Christianity, or it was just people playing political? Like
That's exactly what I
similar, like
wanted
in
to say.
Islam there are instruction to kill non-Muslims.
Exactly,
Was
it is the
something in
same.
Christianity?
Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are Abrahamic religions, and the basic point of Abrahamic religion, all Abrahamic religions, is that no other religion will be tolerated. So, the Abrahamic people have the duty to kill all non-Abrahamic people. Abrahamic religion.
So is it somewhere mentioned in the Bible, or
Yeah, of course,
it was
it's mentioned
okay?
in the Bible. Of course, even in the gospel that they were shown to be nice. In the gospel, Jesus says, "Don't think I have come to bring the peace. I have come to bring the war, sword and the war." Okay. And you see from history, people in Europe or in the Americas, or wherever the Christians became the majority, they didn't convert to Christianity because it was a nice religion. They were converted exactly like people in India converted to Islam. Only Christianity was much more ferocious than Islam at that time.
But in general,
Sorry, there was a connection
only
gap.
Islam is
There was a
like,
connection gap. Can you say again?
okay. There is generic notion amongst, at least in Indian people, that Christianity is religion of love, Islam is the only culprit. So
That's
is it
exactly
like,
why I was happy to make these discussions about the perception of God in the various religions, because that's absolutely not true.
Mhm.
There is the only mention of love you'll find in Christianity is when Jesus says, love God with all your soul and mind and body and everything, and love each other as I loved you.
Mhm.
And Jesus was talking to his companions. He was not saying love everyone. He was not saying love everyone. This is a big misconception, that people think that when they speak about, Christians speak about love and tolerance and compassion, charity, helping each other. They think that this love, compassion, and charity is towards everyone. There's no reason to believe that, because it's not said anywhere. In fact, the Christian missionaries, they do charity only to Christians. If someone wants to convert, then now you are a Christian, I can give charity to you. This is a fundamental point of all Abrahamic cultures. Non-Christians, non-Abrahamic people are never considered, humans to be respected and helped and supported and loved. There's no reason. And this idea, Jesus loves you, that the evangelists go around telling everybody Jesus loves you, Jesus loves you. There is not one verse in the Bible that says that Jesus loves everyone.
Okay.
Jesus only loves his followers.
If you convert, you'll be loved by Jesus. Otherwise, no.
Exactly. So you see, there is no no space for thinking that Christianity is a religion of love. You know, it's a religion, it's a political religion that wants a cult, that wants to keep its followers bound together. And, you know, like all cults, you find out the actual facts after you join. Because after you join, Christians are not treated kindly by other Christians. Look around. See the history. The first centuries of Christianity, you know, they not only they killed all the pagans, all the non-Christians, but they also killed, you know, one another between Christians in the biggest scale possible. You know, with the wars against the heretics. The heretics were Christians who didn't agree with all, you know, with the whole shebang. So some people thought, for example, that Jesus, like the Buddhists, okay. Some people thought that that Jesus was God. Some people thought Jesus was a man, a teacher. And some Christians thought, okay, maybe a little bit of both. So in the end, the emperor established that Jesus was a bit of both. And whoever didn't agree was a heretic, and he should be all killed. So, you know, the first crusade in the 1200s, beginning of 1200s, was by the Church of Rome against the Cathars, who were very good Christians. So when they went, the Cathars had escaped to South France. So the army, Christian armies under the Pope, went to kill everyone in that region. At some point, it became famous. This incident that they came. I think it was the city of Béziers in South France, and the general asked the representative of the Pope, you know, how do we know in this city how many people are actually Cathars and how many people are actually supporting the Pope? And this representative of the Pope, who was there on the battlefield, said, oh, no problem, kill them all. God will know which ones are good. So, where is the love there? No love. You know, the love was that, the kind of love that, you know, the Inquisition, you heard about the Inquisition?
No.
The Inquisition was a kind of Sharia tribunal.
That Sharia, I know.
Yeah,
Islamic
exactly.
law.
So they have these tribunals, Sharia court, that go and check if people are really following. You know, they're really believers, they're really followers. And the Inquisition was exactly the same. Inquisition means inquiry, you know, investigation. So it was controlled by the Pope, and it was a special independent power, a religious court, a religious tribunal, that had power over all the governments in Europe, because all the kings in Europe, they had to submit to the Pope. So all the kings in Europe were expected to give full support to the Inquisition, and especially the kings of Spain were supporting the Inquisition. So anyone could be accused of heresy, means of not totally following, agreeing with what the Pope was saying. So they were torturing people in very horrible ways, very sadistic ways. And after torturing them, and for a long time, whatever, when they were almost dead, they were burned alive at the stake. And the Christian law was that the executioner would kiss the victim to show the love. You see? That's a Christian law. Thank you. That's a Christian law. Thank you. You see? This is a problem that Indian Hindus don't have the proper information. They don't know what they're talking about. They think they can ally with Christian nationalists. But that's that's not possible. When the Christians need the help of the Hindus, they may look like they respect and value the Hindus, they're fans of the Hindus, but whenever they get the power, the mask will fall. All the Abrahamics have this principle that is called propaganda. The word propaganda is a Latin word, church word. The church, the Pope, they all speak Latin, still today. Okay? Because of base of Rome, the Latin was the language of Rome, so they still speak Latin. And the word propaganda is a part of the expression propaganda fidei, which means that which should be made known to people about the faith. It means a version, the official version, that is fabricated because it's specifically meant to be fabricated so the people will believe what we want them to believe. So this is a principle called propaganda fide. The Muslims call it taqiyya. You heard about taqiyya?
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay, you can go and check. Taqiyya is a principle by which you can lie, a Muslim can lie about Islam.
Yeah.
You didn't know it was called taqiyya.
Yeah, I didn't know.
You knew the principle, but you didn't know it was called taqiyya. Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And the same principle is there in Judaism. And it's called kol nidre. Kol nidre means that you can tell whatever lies you want to the non-Jews. The motto of the Mossad, which is the Israeli Secret Service, is a verse from the Old Testament in the Bible that says, "You shall wage war through deception." This is called, the specific Hebraic term for that is kol nidre. So you can't really trust anything any Abrahamic tells you, because they are completely opposed to Dharma if Satyameva Jayate, they're actually Asatyameva Jayate. So, and unfortunately, lots of Hindus don't understand these things, so they think they can win by imitating this Abrahamic approach to war. So they want to imitate the Abrahamics. They want to imitate the Muslims. They want to make friends with the Christians and the Jews. And they think that, oh, now we know better. Okay. Oh, God. So, the perception of the Abrahamics, started, it became very obvious with Christianity. It was already a little bit there with the Maccabean Judaism that is now called Zionism, but became more evident with the Christians, and then more recently, thanks to the Indian independence, it became prominent with the Muslims as well. You know that the independence movement, the Indian independence movement, was basically a Khilafat movement. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
The independence movement in India was started by Muslims to fight back against the British, who in the First World War had destroyed the Ottoman Empire and the Caliphate. So the Muslims from Turkey, from the Ottoman Empire, escaped into India and started the Khilafat movement to reinstate the Caliphate against the British. So they actually wanted a Muslim India. And Mohandas Gandhi supported them. Gandhi used the Hindus as, expendable cannon fodder against the British to help the Muslims. There are lots of quotes about that, lots of, examples. And the fact that the Congress party in India was pro-Muslim is not coming from Sonia Gandhi, but in any way, shape, or form. But, lots of Indians are confused. They don't have the proper information. So, I'm trying to fill the gaps wherever possible. So I think we had our time. I don't want to keep you from your dinner. Do you have any quick question about what we discussed until now?
No.
Okay.
Clear.
So now we can meet again before the next meeting if you want to note down whatever question or doubt or objection or whatever, so that next time we know where to pick up. I would like, now we spoke about Hellenism very quickly and the rise of Christianity, and next time maybe we can talk about the various divisions of Christianity and how they see God. And then we can talk about Islam and how Islam sees God, which I think can, cover the whole thing. Then maybe we can go back and study better the other religions, like, for example, the South American religions and Native American religions, the Chinese religions, Buddhism, why not? because that's also a big, very famous religion. In fact, the greatest number of people in the world are Christian, followed by Islam, followed by Hinduism, followed by Buddhism. Of course, these numbers are calculated on very, racial and birth, especially birth criteria. So they might not be very accurate, but still. Okay, so thank you so much. I hope this discussion is useful.
Yes.
Good. I'm happy. I hope I'm not putting too much information on the table. I'm trying
Yeah,
to,
history wise, yeah, many things. But
yeah,
I feel like, from like in Indian history textbooks, like history should cover
nothing is
broader
there.
topics instead of only cover. Yeah.
Not only, but the Indian history books in schools don't even speak about Vedic times, Vedic knowledge,
Hmm.
Vedic culture. They don't say anything. I believe they are still, pontificating about the Aryan invasion theory.
Hmm.
I don't know if they removed it. I don't think so. Because still, from all the questions I'm getting from Quora, there is still a lot of, Aryan invasion theory idea.
Hmm.
So means the school texts, history texts have not been changed much.
Yeah.
They speak a lot about the Indian independence movement. Yeah, that I know. The Anglo-Maratha wars and stuff like that. But they're not giving all the pieces, all the information. So we can fill the gaps, all verifiable stuff, all things that we can actually verify. Okay, thank you
Thank
again.
you.
We keep in touch.
Jai.
Jai
Yeah,
Jagannath,
sure.
Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Jagannath.
Jai Radhe.
Jai Radhe.